Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new video. The topic of today is basically how to crack any UK interview. As you can see here, I've got a full roadmap to it and it will be revealed in time. But let's have a look what the main things are. First thing is obviously research, second is prep, third is obviously performance, and then fourth being the follow-up procedure of any good UK interview if you want to get a UK sponsored job offer. But if we start off right from the beginning, what do you need to do? Well, the first thing is knowing the interview format. You see, in the UK, for any sponsorship job, there are HR interviews, competency based interview, value based interview, technical panel interviews, case study interviews, as well as assessment centers if you're giving a graduate scheme or a graduate job assessment center. Now, all of these interviews vary, the questions vary, and the type of people interviewing you vary. So make sure that you understand what type of interview you're going to be giving so that you can prep according to it. Because it is extremely vital. If you prep for the wrong style of interview, then when you go into the interview, you're going to be very, very confused. So make sure you do that. Now, the second thing, what do you think it is? Do company research. Once you've figured out what the interview format is, it could be a competency based interview, it could be an HR interview, then you do the company research. For example, for an HR interview, you're going to be looking at the different salary bands, you're going to be looking if there's a relocation package. You're going to also be looking if there's a sponsor license at that company or not. Can they actually sponsor you? Do they have a good sponsorship history? All of this stuff is good research for HR interviews. For competency based is completely different. My advice is look at the different LinkedIn posts that people in that company are doing. Look at the press releases within the company page that the company is doing because you need to do some deep company research. And make sure you understand who their competitors are. If you're applying to a consultancy firm, go and look at the top five competitors of that consultancy firm so that you actually have a good idea of the company that you're applying to and how you can actually ace that interview and impress them when you go to that interview. Because the thing is, only reading the about me section of a company or only knowing the basics of that company and what that company does is not enough anymore. You need to do some proper deep research. You need to ask yourself, what are the quarterly earnings of this company? What are the main objectives of it? How do they actually reach that objective? All of this stuff, very, very important. Make sure you do company research. Obviously, if you want help on how to do company research or how to know what the exact interview format is, I do offer interview prep sessions and interview prep support through the TGN network. If you want to join, obviously just DM me on Instagram TGN. I'm more than happy to help you out. But continuing on with the video, the third thing is once you have an interview that is upcoming, could be competency, technical, whatever it is, you need to basically take the job description and understand what questions will come, how to predict those questions, and do a full line by line breakdown. Because the thing is, you can only predict interview questions by looking at the job description. This means looking at the essential criteria, looking at the desirable criteria. Sometimes on the job description, they say they want XYZ professional with XYZ experience. You need to understand, okay, this is how I'm going to prep for the interview based on what the requirement is. This is what I'm going to do. You can't just read it and say, yeah, I have this experience. Yeah, I have this experience. It just does not work like that, unfortunately. You have to decode it. You have to predict the 10 questions that are going to come. Interviews, they're not usually more than 10 questions. There could be follow up questions, but they're not more than 10 questions. And if it's an HR interview, then it's probably only 3 to 4 questions. So you need to be able to predict the questions that can come. And that is extremely vital. That is literally probably the most important thing about an interview. If you predict the questions, then going into the interview, you're going to be very, very confident. Moving on, what's the fourth thing? Well, now we move on to the prep section. And prepping for an interview, very, very important. But there's no point of prepping if you don't do the research. So make sure you do the research properly. Now, when it comes to prepping, you want to have stories. And stories is what builds the narrative of an interview. It also builds your confidence and it gives them evidence of what you've done in the past and how you can help them in the future. Now, in terms of stories, I always recommend have 8 to 10 different star stories. Okay, use the star map format, which is situation, task, action, result. If you don't know this format, drop me a DM. More than happy to help you out with understanding what the format is. Now, You need to understand that each story needs to fill different themes. You could have one story, and that one story basically fits the problem solving, the attention to detail, as well as one technical component. So try to make sure that if you do pick one story, it fits two soft skills and one hard technical skill. It could be that you were problem solving and you were doing it in an innovative way, and you were using XYZ software. If you do that, then you'll have a good understanding that, okay, I understand the story, I'm very confident, I can go and tell it now. So if they ever ask you, tell me about a time where you handled something, you answered very confidently and you have no issue with it. But just remember, no vague stories, please. Try not to not include numbers, so make sure numbers are there, and always make sure if you're using star method, the end thing is result. Make sure that there's a good positive result. You don't want a negative result at the end. Okay. Now, how else do you prep? Well, prep questions for them. It is extremely important that you're asking them extremely good questions at the end. 3 to 5 questions is ideal. Anything more than five is a bit too much. What you want to do is you want to do one that is learning and development related, you want to do one that's growth related, and you want to do one that's open ended. So you can ask them a question of your own. But just make sure that the questions are not weird, because if you ask them weird questions, they're going to sit there like, well, what is this person actually asking? Make sure that the question is derived from the job description and is growth related. It shows and impresses them that, this person is actually the real deal. They're here to learn, they're here to progress, and they really love this role. Good questions that I've tend to ask in the past when I got my sponsored job. Well, like, in the next 5 to 10 months, what type of support can I expect? And will this be done through CPDs and active training? That's a good question. It's niche, but it's not too niche where they can actually answer it nicely. So obviously ask questions that they can answer. Don't ask very complicated questions where they're like, oh, probably have to get back to you. Don't do that type of stuff. At the same time, don't ask questions that are generic. Don't ask things like, "Oh, is there anything I said during the interview that might have put any doubt in your mind?" I mean, you probably see this on Instagram and TikTok of people advising you. Trust me, you don't want to ask those type of questions. They're very generic. They are weird, and they're just not suitable for a sponsorship interview. So make sure you prep questions for them properly. Okay. And what's the last thing left of the prep? This is probably the most important one: mock interviews. Okay. And you're probably wondering, oh, I don't have a friend, I don't have anyone I can do a mock interview with. It's completely fine. Do a mock interview by just recording yourself using a phone, using a laptop, and just sit in front of a mirror if you want to. Prep in front of a mirror so that you build that confidence. Do at least 5 to 10 different mock interviews. Ask yourself questions in different ways. Say your stories in different ways as well. There is no point of memorizing the star method. Don't try to memorize it. Try to understand it. Understand the logic and the value behind it, and then give those mock interviews. And make sure that the answers are somewhere between 60, 90, or 2 minutes. Maximum 2 minutes. You don't want to go above that. Ideally, don't go less than a minute if you can. The ideal time for any good answer is 90 seconds. If you have the answer within 90 seconds, perfect. The only way to make sure it's within 90 seconds is during your mock interviews. Time yourself giving the answer and understand where you get stuck, and then refine on it. Okay? Because the thing is, you need to learn how to answer questions under pressure. If you don't learn how to answer questions under pressure, well, it's going to be an issue for you and you're going to struggle during the interview. Mock interviews, it's a must. And if you need help with mock interviews, drop me a message, and let's see how I can help you out with the mock interviews. But anyways, once you've prepped, you need to perform, and performance is really important. Okay, you need to have a good strong opener. The first 60 seconds, or really the first 5 minutes, matter a lot. Introduce yourself properly. Good, have a good answer to tell me about yourself. Set the tone. Have some small talk. British people love small talk, especially if you want to get visa sponsorship. British people love small talk. Make sure that you're extremely charismatic, and, well, you do a good job, right? Provide value from the beginning. Next is structure your answers properly. Star for every behavioral or competency based questions. Pause. Don't rush. Don't speak quickly. Okay. And try not to say if you feel like you're going to be saying then just take a pause. 5 seconds. It's completely fine. No issue with that. It shows that you're actually thinking about the answer. And that is really, really important. So make sure you do that, please. There's no point rambling. If you ramble, then there's no point. But just make sure that you take good calculated pauses so that you just give them the confidence that you're not just someone that's thinking about the answer and you don't have an answer. Just take calculated pauses, take it easy. At the end of the day, your prep is what matters. If your prep is good, then your performance will be good. It's that simple. Okay. And what's the last one? Close strong. Like I said, you need to have questions to ask them. So close strong with some good questions. Three questions is more than enough. Just ask about the role, ask about the growth, ask about the learning and development, ask them how you can progress in that role in the future, ask them what their expectations are of this role. But you need to close strong. If you don't close strong, it's going to be very, very hard for you, okay? So make sure you close strong. Follow up, let me reveal all of it. Look, you need to make sure that there's somewhat of a thank you email, thank you note, thank you message that is sent to them either through email or LinkedIn. If you don't thank them within the first 24 hours, you're not going to leave a good impression. Number two is handle silence. If they say that they're going to get back to you in 1 week, it's fine. Don't bother them in that week. If they said 2 weeks, don't bother them in that week. Obviously, if they don't get back to you in those 2 or 3 weeks that they said they were going to get back to you in, then drop them a message or an email, ask them politely for a follow up. Okay? And obviously, the last one being is debrief appropriately. Once you're done with the interview, write down the question that asked you, write down the answers you gave. You want to learn from this because the thing is, you're not going to get a sponsorship job from the first interview that you ever give. Let's be honest, that's the truth. So you need to have a good structure in mind. You need to have a good Excel spreadsheet where you write down the questions you were asked, what answers you gave, so that you have a learning from it. You need to learn from it. You need to learn from the mistakes you made. You need to learn from what you can do better because sponsorship takes time and your interview skills take time as well. Build on your interview skills. This is the full roadmap for it. If you want to get hands on support where you get trained by myself to ace any UK interview in your first go as well, then drop me a message on Instagram, DM me, mentor me. I'll put the link in the description below. Let's have a chat on how I can help you crack any UK interview for sponsorship. Obviously, if you're on a PSW or student visa, that is ideal because I only help students that are either on a student visa, dependent visa, or PSW. All right, drop me a message. Let's have a chat. See you in the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.